Wherever I go, I like to look for things called landmarks, which is what this video is all about. And you might be wondering, what is a landmark? What are landmarks? Well, landmarks are things that help you identify where you are. For example, if you see this landmark called the Eiffel Tower, you know you are in Paris, France. Or if you see Big Ben, you know you are in London, England. In this video, we are going to be learning about famous landmarks. Let's start out with a natural landmark that is incredibly powerful, Niagara Falls. So, what exactly is Niagara Falls? Well, it is a group of three waterfalls on the border of the United States and Canada. Here, we'll show you on the map. Niagara Falls is right here on the map, on the border of Canada and the United States. One of the falls is mostly in Canada. The other two are in the United States. The biggest waterfall of the three is called Horseshoe Falls, or Canadian Falls, depending on who you ask. It is called Horseshoe Falls because of its shape. It looks like a horseshoe. Many people also call it Canadian Falls because most of it is in Canada. Now, Horseshoe Falls is huge, okay? It is 2,590 feet wide with a drop of 187 feet. Horseshoe Falls isn't just big, it is powerful. In fact, Horseshoe Falls is the most powerful waterfall in all of North America. You can see the power of Horseshoe Falls by seeing just how much mist is generated by the falls. So much mist. The other two waterfalls are American Falls and Bridal Veil Falls. Both of them are on the United States side. They are much smaller than Horseshoe Falls. American Falls is the largest of the two and is called American Falls because it is on the American side of the border. Bridal Veil Falls is the smallest of all and is called Bridal Veil Falls because it looks like the veil that a bride wears at a wedding. Now, here is a super easy fact to remember. The waterfalls are on the Niagara River, okay? Niagara Falls, Niagara River, all right? Really easy, really simple, okay? Share that fact with your friends. Okay, now catch this. If you ever visit, you can ride on a boat on the Niagara River and see the falls up close. Everyone has to wear a poncho because you'll get wet. The amount of mist that comes from the falls is amazing. Speaking of visiting, did you know over 30 million people visit Niagara Falls every year? It is one of the most inspiring natural wonders in the world. Now, through the years, not everyone has come just to visit, okay? For example, 11 people have walked a tightrope across Niagara Falls. Tightrope walking is when someone walks across a very thin rope. It requires amazing balance and focus. A man named Charles Blondin is pictured here, walking a tightrope across Niagara Falls while carrying his manager on his back. Can you imagine being that guy? Thankfully, Charles Blondin and his manager made it across safely. Charles Blondin walked across Niagara Falls on a tightrope many times. One lady named Annie Edson Taylor also did something dangerous with the falls in 1901. You can see her pictured here. She got in a barrel and rode down the falls. That's right. She was the first person to do that. She survived, although she did get hurt. If you visit the falls, just look at the falls, okay? They are beautiful. Just look at them. And if you think they look beautiful during the day, they are lit at night. Those are LED lights, and they look almost magical. Wow. Niagara Falls. Okay, yeah, this guy isn't allowed to visit Niagara Falls. It's for your safety, okay? You just shouldn't go. You'd be tempted. Unless if you promise just to look at them like everyone else, alright? Okay, we have one more fact about Niagara Falls to share with you, something we referenced at the beginning of the video. Niagara Falls generates a lot of electricity. The type of power generated by Niagara Falls is called hydroelectricity. That's a fancy name. Hydroelectricity. The fast movement of the water allows the generators at the plants to make electricity. Hydroelectricity is electricity that is powered by water. Niagara Falls, a beautiful place, an incredible natural wonder, and also a source of energy and electricity to the surrounding areas. The next landmark we are learning about is Big Ben. We are talking about one of the most famous clock towers in the world. It's called Big Ben. Big Ben might sound more like a nickname for the kid next door that Fido is scared of, okay? But it's this clock tower. It is part of a very special building in London called the Palace of Westminster. It is located in the north end of the palace. So, this huge clock tower at the Palace of Westminster in London, why is it called Big Ben? That's a good question. To be honest, we don't know. No, seriously, we don't. No one does. There are rumors and stories, but we don't know for sure. Even stranger, the real name for the tower is Elizabeth Tower, a name it was given in 2012 in honor of the Queen, Queen Elizabeth II. Before that, it was simply called the Clock Tower by many, which is a very honest name, isn't it? That is exactly what Big Ben is. It's a clock tower. Now, while we may not know why it is called Ben, we do know why it is called big. It is 315 feet tall. That's huge. Of course, the clock itself is massive too. The hour hand is 9 feet long, and the minute hand is 14 feet long. Wow, that's a big clock. Not only is the clock huge, it is lit at night. It's like a huge night light for the people of London. People from all over London can see what time it is by looking at Big Ben in the evening. Well, here's a question. So, okay, how long has Big Ben been around, okay? When did they build this clock tower? When did they build this thing? Well, here's a hint. It is super old. Super old. No offense, Big Ben, but you are a very old clock tower. So when was it built? Well, Big Ben was completed in 1859. It has been a famous part of London for a very long time. Now, through the years, as you might imagine, Big Ben has been a reliable and accurate way of keeping track of time. Not just because Big Ben displays the time. There are also 5 bells in Big Ben that chime. 4 of the bells chime every 15 minutes. The main bell, called the Great Bell, chimes every hour. It's the really big one, okay? It's pretty loud because, everyone in London has to hear it, right? Originally, the nickname Big Ben belonged to the Great Bell. That's right. But over time, it came to mean the whole clock and tower, not just the Great Bell. Well, we've had so much fun talking about Big Ben. Big Ben is a symbol of the United Kingdom. When people think of the United Kingdom or think of the city of London, Big Ben is what pops into their minds. When movies and television shows film in London, they usually want to film near Big Ben, or at least have Big Ben featured in the background because it is such an iconic part of the city. Since it is such a special landmark, it has been important to keep the tower safe and in good working order. Repairs and renovations have happened, which keep Big Ben looking its best. These guys are cleaning the clock, okay? Careful, don't fall. And with exception to some times of crazy weather or times of repair, the clock has just kept going and going and going, as it will for future generations. What a beautiful landmark. If you ever visit London, you will see Big Ben or Elizabeth Tower. You will hear the chimes. You'll tell the person next to you that Big Ben is 315 feet tall. You can tell them that Big Ben has 5 bells, 4 of them smaller, and 1 great bell. You could tell them, that building it's attached to, that's the Palace of Westminster, okay? You might take a picture. Eat a sandwich, walk around, wear a hat. Okay, all right, we're done. Cool. Now we are going to learn about a landmark in Washington, D.C. called the Lincoln Memorial. The Lincoln Memorial is an American monument in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. As you could probably tell from the name, the Lincoln Memorial honors Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Abraham Lincoln is most famous for being the President of the United States during the Civil War and abolishing slavery. He was one of the most influential presidents in American history. We mentioned earlier that the Lincoln Memorial is in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. The Lincoln Memorial is in a section of Washington, D.C. called the National Mall. Can you say the National Mall? The National Mall. The National Mall is a big park in downtown Washington, D.C. with many important historical monuments. Right down here, you can see the Lincoln Memorial. Hi, Lincoln Memorial. How you doing? Then, right in front of the Lincoln Memorial is a big pool. That's right, a big pool. A pool called the Reflecting Pool. It is a large rectangular pool that was built shortly after the Lincoln Memorial was dedicated in 1922. There are beautiful walking paths around the reflecting pool. It is an amazing sight to see the reflections of the monuments in the water. It's not for swimming, but it looks so beautiful. Then, across from the Lincoln Memorial, on the other side of the reflecting pool, is the Washington Monument, a monument honoring George Washington, one of the founding fathers of the United States of America and the first president of the United States. There are other monuments as well in the National Mall that pay tribute and honor to significant people and events in American history. So if anyone says, I'm going to the National Mall, they aren't talking about going shopping, all right? They're talking about visiting the large park in downtown Washington, D.C., and the monuments there. Hey, do you remember what year the Lincoln Memorial was dedicated? We mentioned it briefly when we were talking about the National Mall. Do you remember? 1922. The Lincoln Memorial was dedicated in 1922. On May 30th, 1922, the Lincoln Memorial was dedicated. Here is a picture of President Warren G. Harding on that day. It was such a special day. Plus, Abraham Lincoln's son, Robert Todd Lincoln, was able to attend the dedication. He was the last surviving son of Abraham Lincoln and was 78 years old when the Lincoln Memorial was dedicated. Everyone was so impressed with it. It's designed like a classic Greek temple, and it's made of marble from Colorado. You might have noticed the Lincoln Memorial has a lot of columns. The Lincoln Memorial has 36 columns, representing the 36 states that were in the United States during his presidency. The most memorable part of the Lincoln Memorial for most people is the statue of Abraham Lincoln inside. The statue is 19 feet tall and is made of marble that came from the state of Georgia. It took 4 years to finish the statue. That's a long time, 4 years. Now, here's something cool, okay? The Lincoln Memorial is open 24 hours a day, okay? That means you can even visit the Lincoln Memorial at night. I mean, look how cool this is. This is the statue of Abraham Lincoln at night. It looks awesome at night because it is well lit, allowing people to stop by and reflect on the legacy of Abraham Lincoln regardless of what time it is. That's so cool. Here is another amazing fact. On August 28, 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous I Have a Dream speech from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Yeah, that's where he delivered that speech, that famous I Have a Dream speech. It was delivered on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Here's a fact that's a little sad. You know, the U.S. penny used to feature the Lincoln Memorial on the back. You could even see a little Abraham Lincoln inside of the Lincoln Memorial. Super cool, right? But in 2008, they changed it to the Union Shield, and the Union Shield is cool. But, you know, the Lincoln Memorial used to be there, you know? We like the Lincoln Memorial, right? Comment below. Do you think the Lincoln Memorial should have stayed on the penny? Let us know. We still have the $5 bill, right? The $5 bill still has the Lincoln Memorial, but you know, it used to be on the penny too, you know, and then they changed it. Here is our final fact about the Lincoln Memorial. The Lincoln Memorial is a popular monument to visit. In fact, it is estimated that over 6 million people visit the Lincoln Memorial every year. Over 6 million people. Not only is the Lincoln Memorial a tribute to Abraham Lincoln, but it has also become a symbol of Washington, D.C. itself. Next, we are going to learn about the Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China is the longest wall in the world. How cool, how fun, how interesting is that? There's not a single wall that's longer than the Great Wall. The Great Wall is the longest wall in the world. And it's the biggest ancient structure ever built. You might be wondering, how big, how long is this thing, okay? The Great Wall of China is over 13,000 miles long. Wow, think of it. A wall that's 13,000 miles long. Now, as the name implies, because it's called the Great Wall of China, the Great Wall of China is in China. And this is the flag, the Chinese flag. And you see it's a red flag. And it's got 5 gold stars, 1 big gold star, and 4 smaller gold stars. This is the flag of the country of China. Now, if you remember, China is in the continent of Asia, right about here, okay? Right about here, if you remember your continents. China is in the continent of Asia, okay? Now, you might be wondering, where in China is this Great Wall? Okay, where is it? Well, we're about to share that with you. Millions and millions of people visit it each and every year because it's such a special place. And you're about to find out where, so that if you ever in China, you could say, hey, I know where to go to the wall. I want to see the Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China is in the northern part of China. On this map, it looks like the entire wall is continuous. The whole thing is connected, but it's not. There are places where there are very high mountains or rivers that form a natural barrier, and so the wall doesn't go over those places, but from a distance, it looks like the wall is one great big wall. Now this is insane! The Great Wall of China is over 2,300 years old! Now that doesn't mean every part of the wall is that old, but that's when they started building the Great Wall of China and connecting some of the regional walls that were already there. Alright, before we continue, we want to ask you this question. This question to see if you remember. How many miles long is the Great Wall of China? Do you remember? We mentioned it earlier in the video. How many miles long is the Great Wall of China? Yeah, over 13,000 miles. Oh my goodness! Over 13,000 miles. Wow. 13,000. Alright, let's get back. Here we go. The Great Wall of China, as we said, is over 2,300 years old. To be honest, the history of the Great Wall of China goes back even further than that. From the 8th to the 5th centuries BC, China went through the Warring States period. Whoa! It was called the Warring States period because China was not one country, but instead was made up of multiple states that were fighting all the time. They would fight. They didn't work together. During this time, leaders built small defensive walls in the northern part of China, which, remember, is where the Great Wall of China is today. But then this man came along. His name was Qin Shi Huang, and he was the first emperor of China. He brought China together. He unified China. Can you say that with me? Qin Shi Huang. Oh, come on. You can do better than that, right? Qin Shi Huang. Yeah, that's pretty good. Qin Shi Huang united China and began connecting many of the northern walls to protect China against northern invaders. And that was 2,300 years ago, 2,300 years ago, the start of the Great Wall of China. Now, this map shows the Great Wall of China today. Back then, it was not that long, and also it was made mostly of wood and stone. And when you visit today, you'll see the Great Wall of China is mostly made of brick. Now, most of the wall you see today was built during the Ming Dynasty. The Great Wall of China has been built by millions of people over these 2,300 years. Wow, oh my goodness. The Great Wall of China still fascinates and amazes people every single year that want to visit and just say, wow, how did they build something this magnificent, this huge, with such rich history? It's so cool. And if you ever visit someday, you could say, listen, I know a little bit about this place. All right, now we are going to learn about the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is one of the most famous structures in the entire world. Yeah, the entire world. It is made out of iron and is 1,050 feet tall. That's absolutely massive, and it's made out of iron. This is huge. Here's a picture of the base of the Eiffel Tower, and look how tiny the people look. They look like little baby ants. And this is just the base of this incredibly huge iron tower. Look how tiny they look. They look like little baby ants. This is such a huge structure. All right, so where is the Eiffel Tower? The Eiffel Tower is right here in the country of France, which is in the continent of Europe. Here is the French flag, the flag of the country of France. You can see that the flag has 3 vertical stripes, a blue stripe, a white stripe, and a red stripe. Now you might be wondering, where in France is the Eiffel Tower? Well, the Eiffel Tower is in Paris, the capital of France. Here is the city of Paris at night. Do you see the Eiffel Tower? Yeah, there it is. Right there. It's kind of hard to miss. It's so huge. The Eiffel Tower, remember, is 1,050 feet tall, and it looks like it's lit up. That's because it is. It's incredible. There are over 20,000 light bulbs on the Eiffel Tower. Over 20,000 light bulbs so people can see the Eiffel Tower at night. Alright, so what's the history behind the Eiffel Tower? Why did they build it? Why does it look the way it does? Why did they call it the Eiffel Tower? What's the story here? The Eiffel Tower was built to be the entrance for the 1889 World's Fair. Here is a poster they put up in France telling people about how the Eiffel Tower was going to be featured in the 1889 World's Fair. So many people were excited because the entire world was looking at Paris that day because it was the World's Fair. It was a huge deal. The Eiffel Tower was named after Gustave Eiffel. His company designed and built the Eiffel Tower, so they thought, well, let's name it after you, Eiffel Tower, Eiffel Tower. So Eiffel was an actual man, Gustave Eiffel, and he's the one that designed and built the Eiffel Tower, him and his company. So they started building it in 1887. They needed a lot of iron, a lot of metal, and they just kind of heaped it in the beginning and they started building the foundation. This is a picture of what it looked like right at the start. These guys have a lot of work to do. Oh my goodness. That must have been so overwhelming. And then they finished the base. How cool is that? They're doing such a great job. That must have been so good to finish the base. And then they just kept working and working and working. Then they started building the middle section of the Eiffel Tower. Careful, we don't want to fall. It's starting to get really high up. Really, really, really high up now. Here is a picture of the last stage of building the Eiffel Tower when they were building the very, very top of the tower, which is called the cupola. And then, after a lot of hard work in 1889, the Eiffel Tower was completed in time for the World's Fair. Are you ready for an Eiffel Tower fact? I know, this video's been full of facts, but we're going to share one that's really, 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 really interesting. Did you know every 7 years the Eiffel Tower has to be repainted? Yeah, literally, they have to paint the Eiffel Tower every 7 years. And here's a real picture of a guy in the 1950s painting the Eiffel Tower by hand. Can you believe it? Look how high up this guy is. He doesn't even look scared. He's just like, la da 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 da. I'm really high up, and I'm painting the Eiffel Tower. This is what I do. This is what I do. And he seems to be pretty happy up there. I mean, it's amazing. Has to be painted every 7 years. Now, what color do you think they paint the Eiffel Tower? Here's a picture of the Eiffel Tower. What color do you think they paint it? That's a good question. The Eiffel Tower is actually painted brown, and there are 3 shades of brown they use, with the darkest shade of brown on the bottom and the lightest on the top. The Eiffel Tower is painted brown. So there you have it, the Eiffel Tower, an amazing brown iron structure that was built for the 1889 World's Fair and is one of the most famous symbols of France, bringing in millions of visitors every year who want to see this incredible structure. For this next landmark, we're going to get help from our other narrator who will be telling us about Mount Rushmore.
This is Mount Rushmore. It is located in South Dakota in the Black Hills National Forest. Do you know where South Dakota is? South Dakota is here in the Midwestern United States. And this is where Mount Rushmore is. Mount Rushmore is a monument. A monument is something that is made to give honor to a person or an event. This monument gives honor to 4 United States presidents: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. Before the monument was made, the mountain was already named after a man named Charles Rushmore. Charles Rushmore was a lawyer from New York. He visited the Black Hills in the 1880s. Over 400 people worked to carve Mount Rushmore out of stone. That's a lot of people. Carving is changing something's appearance by cutting it. The workers used explosives like dynamite for a lot of the carving. They used smaller tools for the details on the presidents' faces and to smooth it out. A South Dakota state historian thought of the idea for the monument as a way to bring more visitors to the state. The historian originally wanted the faces of different people on Mount Rushmore, but the artist he hired said more people would come to see the presidents. Mount Rushmore started being made in the 1920s. Work on it began in 1927, and it was finished in 1941, which was 14 years later. That's a long time! The artist wanted the monument to show more of the president's upper bodies. But the United States was getting ready for war in 1941, so the money for finishing Mount Rushmore stopped coming. Some Native American groups don't like the monument because the land used to belong to them. The United States government treated them poorly and took the land away from them. So they are upset that Mount Rushmore was built on that land. So a Native American chief from the Sioux tribe planned his own monument near there that would honor a Native American named Crazy Horse. So we learned today that Mount Rushmore was carved out of stone. Work on Mount Rushmore began in the 1920s. It has the faces of 4 United States presidents. Do you remember the presidents' names? What is his name? Great job! That's George Washington. How about him? That's right, that's Thomas Jefferson. What is his name? Yes, that's Theodore Roosevelt. Can you name this president? Yes, you got it. That's Abraham Lincoln. Great job! You did so well guessing those presidents' names and learning all about Mount Rushmore today.
That's wonderful. Next, we are going to learn about Hoover Dam. If you've ever been to the Hoover Dam, you've seen this sign. This is the sign when you're really close to the Hoover Dam. It lets you know, it's Hoover Dam time. It's really exciting, and you want to dance in front of the sign, and it's cool, and it's fun. What an amazing place. And we're going to talk about it, but real quick, if you've ever been to the Hoover Dam, we want to hear what you thought about it. So write in the comments section if you've been to the Hoover Dam, and we're going to jump right in. But this is the sign. This is the sign that you see when you get to the Hoover Dam, and you might think, it's not impressive. It is. It's a great sign. It's an amazing sign. Great sign for the Hoover Dam. Well, gee williker, this is quite a structure. You're looking at it right now on that picture. It's amazing. It's made of 3.25 million tons of concrete. It weighs more than 6.5 million tons. The Hoover Dam is an amazing structure. Now, where is the Hoover Dam? The Hoover Dam is near the west coast of the United States of America. It's actually on the border between the states of Nevada and Arizona. You can see right where it is, where that red dot is, right there. That's where the Hoover Dam is. It crosses the Colorado River, which you could see right here. And of course, here's the Hoover Dam, this big concrete structure. I wonder if the river gets angry about this, right? Wouldn't you think the river would get upset, right? Just flowing along, and all of a sudden, boom, there's concrete, there's a concrete wall. And the river does flow through, but it's a big hassle, right? I mean, it's blocking the way. It's a big deal. You don't think the river's upset? No. Okay, the river doesn't have feelings? Okay. I just throwing it out there, okay? No need to nitpick, okay? They started building the Hoover Dam in 1931, and they finished building it in 1936. Which is a little confusing because on the Hoover Dam it says 1931 and 1935, but it was in 1935, the year before it was finished, that they dedicated it. Okay, so they dedicated it before it was actually finished, but it was in 1936 that they finished construction, and by the end of it, 21,000 total people helped build it. Huge achievement. You might not realize this, but there was a big controversy back then about what we should name it. What should we name it? Well, some people wanted to name it Boulder Dam, and in the early days, a lot of people did. It was originally thought that it was going to be called the Hoover Dam after President Herbert Hoover. You see, President Herbert Hoover was not popular. In fact, when he ran for re-election in 1932, he lost. And so a lot of people didn't like him, and a lot of people didn't want to name the dam after him. It might seem silly and funny to us today, but back then it was a big deal, and there was a big fight over it. In fact, map makers didn't even know what to put. They didn't know whether to put Boulder Dam or Hoover Dam, and there was so much disagreement. Eventually, thankfully, everyone just decided, hey, let's call it the Hoover Dam. There are other things that we can argue about and fight about. Let's just call it the Hoover Dam. We mentioned earlier that the Hoover Dam has two main purposes. I mean, it's not just there to look pretty. If it was, they would have put the Homeschool Pop logo on the dam, right? If they wanted it to look pretty, that's what they would have done, okay? That's a joke. The two purposes of the Hoover Dam are to control the Colorado River and also to generate electricity. Remember this? It's easy to see how the Hoover Dam helps control the Colorado River to make sure the levels are always where they need to be. But it also generates a ton of electricity for people to use. It uses things called turbines, which are spun by the water and generates electricity. It generates enough power for 1.3 million people. The Hoover Dam is a massive powerhouse, which is amazing, and that energy is really good for the environment. The Hoover Dam, made from 3.25 million tons of concrete. It's amazing. It took 5 years to build. It weighs more than 6.5 million tons. It looks cool. It controls the Colorado River. And it gives enough power for 1.3 million people. What an amazing structure the Hoover Dam is. All right. Next, we are going to learn about the Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge is a massive suspension bridge that is almost a mile long. It's an impressive bridge. In 1994, the Golden Gate Bridge was declared one of the 7 wonders of the modern world, and today it is still one of the most famous structures in the world. The Golden Gate Bridge is on the west coast of the United States of America in the state of California. And here's an arrow that shows where the Golden Gate Bridge is in California. It's right at the edge of California by the Pacific Ocean. A strait called Golden Gate separates San Francisco from Marin County. A strait is a narrow waterway. The Golden Gate Strait is only about a mile wide. The Golden Gate Bridge was built to connect San Francisco to Marin County because the Golden Gate Strait was causing a lot of issues with traveling. Well, construction began in 1933. Some people worried it would cost too much. Other people worried it wouldn't be safe. Safety was important, really important. They made sure all the workers were safe. Workers had to wear hard hats, and there were safety nets in case someone fell. And that did happen. It saved the lives of 19 people because they knew safety was important. Just like today, safety is important. In 1937, it was completed. It only took 4 years to build, and by the time it was completed, it was the longest bridge and the tallest bridge, making it the biggest bridge in the world. San Francisco is a very busy city. The Golden Gate Bridge was built so people could more easily get in and out of the city. And this is so fascinating. Over 100,000 cars cross every day. Over 100,000 cars drive on the Golden Gate Bridge every single day. Now here's an interesting question we have for you about this bridge. What color is the Golden Gate Bridge? It's an interesting question. Did you know this is something a lot of adults don't know? A lot of grown-ups don't know what color it really is. There's a specific color. Do you know what it is? The Golden Gate Bridge is international orange. That's the color of the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's interesting, there are so many people that don't know that. So just for a second, why don't we stop and think just for a second? We're just going to put it in our memory bank. And if anyone ever asks you what color the Golden Gate Bridge is, you'll say international orange. Can you say that? International orange. So what color is the bridge? International orange. Wow, I think you got it. Great. The last landmark we are learning about in this video is the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is a massive statue in New York City. It is on Liberty Island in what is called New York Harbor. Now, they called it Liberty Island after the Statue of Liberty got there, because the Statue of Liberty is the coolest thing about Liberty Island. It's actually a very, very small island in New York Harbor. Okay, so you might look at pictures and wonder, oh my goodness, how big is it? How big is this thing? Well, the statue itself is over 151 feet tall. This is a massive statue. Oh, huge. Now, you may not know this. The word liberty means freedom. The Statue of Liberty is a statue that celebrates the freedoms we all share. Now, there are symbols of freedom all throughout this statue. The torch itself that she carries represents freedom. And in the statue, she is stepping over broken chains. The Statue of Liberty is a statue of freedom. Hey, did you know the Statue of Liberty was a gift from France? How cool is that? The country of France gave us the Statue of Liberty. Pretty huge gift, a really generous gift. It cost them a lot of money to make. As you might have guessed, the statue was built in France, and Auguste Bartholdi sculpted the statue. This dude was like an amazing sculptor, right? Didn't he do a good job? And they did it out in the open because they wanted the people of France to get excited about paying for this statue, because it costs a lot of money to make. It's made out of copper, and it's a whole lot of copper. And so they built this thing in France. It was completed in 1886, which was actually 10 years after when they wanted to finish it. They wanted to finish it by 1876, the 100-year anniversary of when the United States became a country. I mean, wow. Even though it took longer to complete than they thought, what an incredible accomplishment. Just look at this statue made in the 1800s. Such an amazing gift from France. Wow. Who is this guy? Hey, get out of here. What do you think this is? Not gonna just show up here. My goodness. Oh boy. Okay. I'm sorry. That wasn't nice. How about this? We've got, this Statue of Liberty video. Why don't you help us out the last little bit? Okay? Okay, good. Well, the last thing we want to share with you is why the statue is green. Why is the Statue of Liberty green? Well, remember, the Statue of Liberty is made of copper. When copper is exposed to air and water, it can have a protective green coating called copper oxide. It's almost like it's a coat, it's a jacket to protect the copper called copper oxide. Here's what the Statue of Liberty's face used to look like, and that was the color of the entire statue. And then it looked like this. The Statue of Liberty is now covered in copper oxide. It took 30 years for the Statue of Liberty to turn completely green. Do you want to try something fun? You can take a penny. A penny is also made out of copper. And you can do the same thing to the penny that happened to the Statue of Liberty. You can leave it outside, and over time, that penny, as it's exposed to the air and to the water from the rain, it will be covered in copper oxide over time. That green protective coating, and you can see that happen for yourself. You can check back with that penny over time, and you'll be like, oh my goodness, you're turning green just like the Statue of Liberty. Abraham Lincoln can turn green too. Wow, the Statue of Liberty, a symbol of freedom in New York Harbor in New York City. A gift from France, a reminder of the freedoms we all share. For many people who came to the United States of America in search of a better life, the Statue of Liberty was the first thing that they would see. A statue of freedom for you and me. Special thanks to our patrons who make these videos possible. If you would like to help us and also get some cool Homeschool Pop tattoos, click the link below the video or visit homeschoolpop.com to learn more. As always, you are so awesome. Thanks for learning with us.